Hello, welcome back to Improv Basics. This is number 3. I'm going to take a little different approach on this one. Maybe take a little different approach from here on out. I did the first ones just to try to get first couple things down, very beginning. But what I kind of want to do today is just pick a subject to talk about. I kind of want to talk about key signatures and how key signatures affect what I'm doing when I'm improvising. For all you keyboard and piano players out there, I don't want this just to be about keyboard and piano, because improvising is improvising no matter what instrument you're using. So everything I'm talking about will apply to every instrument. I just happen to be working with a keyboard or piano here, so and I like playing it. It's just, I feel like it's one of the most versatile instruments that I've ever found. But if you're playing keyboard and piano, unless you're going to be playing by yourself for the rest of your life for your own amusement, which there's absolutely nothing wrong with. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. Please do not get stuck in the key of C. I see a lot of piano players who get stuck in the key of C, and that's the only key they ever want to play in because they're comfortable with it. It's easy. They just focus on the white keys, maybe a sharper flat here or there. But it really is not going to work if you want to be a musician. If you end up playing in rock bands where there's guitar music, you're going to end up playing in sharp keys. E, A, and D are probably the most popular, but all the sharp keys. If you play in jazz bands with saxophones or trumpets or something, you're going to end up playing in all the flat keys. Saxophones are in E flat, trumpets are in B flat. When I was an accompanist for a church, I had to play in every key, because if I'm playing with a choir, I can't really rewrite all their parts to fit the key that I want to be in, so I have to play with whatever it's written in. Also, for improvising, key signature changes can really create a flavor that you're not going to get by playing diatonically. So to be able to play in all the keys allows you to be able to switch keys or play chords out of key and move around. For instance, if I start in the key of C, play a C7th, and it leads to going to the key of F. I play a F7th, going to lead to the key of B flat, to the key of E flat, and it goes around in the circle. It's called the circle of fifths, but it's very useful too. And then also, if you're just playing something, say in the key of C, switch to D, you just transpose everything up one step. You can refresh what you were doing before, so you can almost kind of play the same thing as you did. Like if you played a 16-bar phrase a few times, you just wanted to refresh it, but play the same thing, you can just move up a key or so, and it just feels refreshed when you started over in a new key. So keep that in mind. You really want to be able to play in all the key signatures. But I have found, for me, the key signatures I'm using in the style of music or the sound of what I have in my head are very related. I find that some keys just work better for certain kinds of music for me. Not that I'm trying to ignore other keys at that time, but when I was playing at the church, when I was doing like just like a easy listening type feel, especially the major 7th, major 9th feels, which I really love. E flat was my favorite key. I found it kind of suits my hand just the way that the black and white keys are laid out together, and it was just easy to get those kind of chords. If I'm playing blues or something, I really like the key of F. When I'm playing in the key of F, for example, I think of F major. I also think of F with like F minor with a minor blues scale. Think of F Dorian. So when I'm playing in F, all these things that will help with the blues feel for me kind of work into F, which is actually in the key of, I'm thinking of E flat, because that's F Dorian. A Dorian mode is the second note of a scale, so in E flat it would be F. So if I play F to F in an E flat scale, it's F Dorian. I did a video, I named it Dorian, where I was just kind of playing an F Dorian. We'll get into modes a little bit later. But that's still, I think of it in the key of E flat, even though the F minor would be in the key of A flat. F major obviously is in the key of A, but I really like that for blues just because the F minor blues scale fits my hand really well. I also like a major blues scale for F. And like I said, the Dorian. So, and then for other things, if I'm playing like a bebop type of feel, I really kind of like the key of G. Reminds me of like the old 50s rock and roll sounds in the key of G. If I'm playing like a ragtime or a sharp 9th, sharp 11th feel, I kind of like the key of C. Key of C seems to work good for that for me. If I'm playing like rock, like heavy rock feel, which is kind of hard in the piano, but with other synth sounds. I think of the key of E mostly because I think of guitar music when I'm thinking of heavy rock. So when I'm improvising, I kind of think of a key signature along with the sound. So if I wanted to play some blues, I would think of the key of F automatically. Not that I want to play blues in F all the time. You can play it in whatever key you want. I mean, I could just play it in E flat. But certain key signatures seem to lend themselves pretty well to. Even when I was playing a bass guitar, I remember I liked different key signatures for different things. I liked like F minor I love for like a minor rock feel, because on the bass, or F sharp minor, I'm sorry, on the bass you got the E, so F sharp, if I'm playing an F sharp minor, I've got a note below me. So I liked having that whole step below my F there. If I'm playing an E on the bass, then I have nowhere to go backwards. If I was playing in a C, I kind of liked it for like a rock and roll. Because the E was the lowest note, I could go C, the next note in the E chord, or a C chord is an E, which I could play the open E. So on every instrument, I tend to have certain key signatures I like better for certain kinds of music. So I just wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit, and what they kind of lend themselves to. And then also certain key signature changes can be really kind of useful. The E flat to C, I think, is a really interesting change. So switching between the E flat chord and C chord, and then also like an A flat and C kind of, I think, is interesting too. Or maybe like if I started and say E flat and I'm just switching chords, I tend to think of chords and key signatures a little bit together. I think I focus more on chords when I'm improvising than keys, but a lot of times the chord I'm playing, I'll think that key. So if I'm playing in, say, E minor, and I wanted to go to, say, F sharp minor, I would think the key of F sharp minor. If if I want to go to A, I would think of like an A minor. To a C minor, say. Back to an E flat minor. I would just think that I was in those keys. So if I was improvising over that, I would have, like I say, E flat minor. To F sharp minor. To A minor. Go to a C minor. Back to an E minor. So when I'm changing chords, I kind of change key signatures, especially when you get into jazz and more complicated music. I had written a thing once. I'll play it for you at some point. I'm not going to play it today, but it starts out with a D minor 7 flat 5. So technically that chord's in the key of E flat. Then it goes to a G7 plus 5, which is really not any particular key signature, but then it goes to a C minor 7 flat 5, which is kind of like a G flat chord. And if I remember, I think it's a F7 plus 5. Into a B flat minor, which I would think in the key of A flat, even though it's really probably D flat. I guess it'd be a D flat key. Anyway, I would try to think of what key that chord fits into, and just because I'm playing, say, a C minor chord, I don't necessarily think of the key of C minor. I could think like an A flat key. I could also think of E flat key, which would be the key of C minor. I could think of a B flat key, which would have B flat and E flat in it, so it would still kind of fit. All of those different key signatures over a C minor chord would put you in a different mode. We'll get into modes a little bit later, but basically what a mode is, and I'll go over this real quick in the key of C. Basically a mode is different starting and stopping points of a key. So if I'm playing in the key of C and I play a C chord and the C scale over it, then I'm in the first mode, or Ionian mode. If I'm in the Dorian mode, I would play a D. If I'm playing a D minor, which technically a D minor would be in the key of F, it would be relative to the key of F, but I'm playing it in the key of C because there's no sharps or flats in it, and so on. It would just go right up the scale. So a mode is just the starting and stopping point. So I think of modes a lot when I'm improvising, just because I'm not necessarily playing the scale of the chord I'm playing a mode that fits that chord, if that makes sense. So I don't want this video to be too long, but I kind of wanted to talk about key signatures a little bit, just for something new. Hopefully some of this will give you some ideas when you're improvising. So if you were to take my first two videos about the pentatonic scale and maybe just kind of add this to it, you know, if you're playing, say, in C major and you're just playing with the pentatonic scale, and you wanted to brighten it up, you could just change to the key of G, say, and play a G pentatonic scale over it. Back to the C. Or you could get extreme. You could play the C major with the pentatonic scale and then switch to the E chord, E flat chord, and play E flat pentatonic scale over it. It would give you a whole different type of change. So just by switching key signatures, even in your improvisation, and just working with the couple things we talked about first, you can really kind of freshen things up. So hopefully that's somewhat helpful. Bit of an odd topic, I guess, but I just want to maybe make these videos more random at this point, now that we got the basics, real basics out of the way, and maybe give you some little tools here and there for improvising. Anything you can pick up and just add to your toolbox is just going to make it that much more. So anyway, that's a few thoughts on key signatures. We'll get into it a little bit more as we go. We'll definitely get into modes as we go, and different ways to use modes. And I use modes a lot harmonically because a lot of my improvisation when I'm playing by myself is just harmonic improvisation, where I'm thinking more of chord structures and coming up with different chord structures on the spot. And the melody kind of follows that, as I kind of talked about here. But the harmonic improvisation for me is more important sometimes than the melodic improvisation. So anyway, I hope this was a little bit interesting and maybe helpful to somebody. And we'll see you next time on the next Improv Basics. And hit the subscribe button down there. You'll get some notifications when my new videos come out if you're following this. And we'll see you next time.